I'm standing here with Kittrick Jeffries. He's the founder of Dakota Cannabis Consulting. Kit, thanks for joining me on Peer to Peer.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lee.
Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and what Dakota Cannabis Consulting does?
Absolutely. My name's Kittrick Jeffries. I was born and raised in Rapid City. I actually left Rapid City 5 years ago to go get into the professional cannabis industry, where I started out in Oregon and Colorado, which led me into consulting in 7 states, mainly focusing on the seed to sale tracking system to help transparency with compliance through local authorities in the state and stakeholders as well.
You know, on election day when Amendment A and IM26 passed, were you surprised to see that happen?
Well, I think times are changing, and medical, in my opinion, was pretty inevitable to happen at some point or another. I'm glad that it happened this cycle. Recreational did take me by surprise.
Why is that?
Yeah, I just thought having both of them on the ballot and being voted and elected on at the same time, I thought maybe. I was really optimistic that it would pass. But again, it's a crapshoot in South Dakota. It'd be the first time a state's ever done that, and voting both on medical and in recreational at the same time. I'm glad we're the first.
So with that comes a lot of, legislating. And so lawmakers have until July 1st before the law goes into effect. What are you telling lawmakers about cannabis and cannabis regulation?
Representative Derby had started the Cannabis Caucus. It's an informal gathering where we come up and meet, trying to meet once a week and talk about educational seminars and just the plant in general. My first topic was terms and definitions, explaining anything from the endocannabinoid system all the way to a seed to sale tracking system and how that works. There was also a few other consultants and industry professionals there talking about the federal legalization and the new Biden administration, and then also talking about different frameworks we could see the cannabis industry take shape in South Dakota.
How curious are lawmakers about cannabis, and what are they asking you about?
I think they're very curious. I think they want to know more about the risk for law enforcement, as well as the beneficial economic impact that cannabis and agribusiness of medical and recreational bring to South Dakota. Also very curious about how other states have implemented these programs and what that could mean and look like in South Dakota.
What should South Dakotans know and expect about legal cannabis?
South Dakota can look forward to a highly regulated industry, just like similar states in Colorado, Oregon, Montana. Everything's tracked in seed to sale, so they know exactly where that plant's coming from, what pesticides have been applied to it, who is harvesting it, what employees were working with it, and things like that, so that they can get a sure shot product and making sure that it's safe for consumption and things like that with testing requirements, packaging, and labeling. So I would expect something similar in South Dakota, where we do have high regulations. It only makes the most sense.
How do you, what do you say to maybe South Dakotans who are concerned about the intersection of, legalization and public safety?
So I understand that they're worried about the black market sales and keeping it out of the hands of kids and things like that. I think with proper education and some form of seed to sale tracking system, as well as law enforcement response and proper education in schools, just making sure that everyone's under full transparency from this new booming industry. I would consider it the likeness of alcohol or tobacco.
So you were born and raised in Rapid City, is that correct?
Yep.
You spent some time in Colorado and Oregon. How do you think this is going to look in South Dakota?
I can tell you how we don't want it to look, but I would say very similar. I would expect it to look very similar. It's what people are most comfortable with. Walking into a dispensary, making sure your ID is getting checked at the door to prevent underage people from even entering the back room where cannabis products are being held. And then a full one-on-one experience with a bud tender or an employee that can give you a full round of information and knowledge that they share upon you, so you can get a better understanding of the cannabis and cannabis plant.
What are you going to be telling what are you going to be telling lawmakers this week in the Cannabis 202, Cannabis Caucus
For
202?
202, we're going to be presenting on what a professional industry looks like, as anything from extraction labs to dispensaries to cultivation facilities, walking them through those steps, and then also showing what other states have done to implement licensing and things like that, and taxes, and how that's either greatly improved their industry or drastically affected their industry. For instance, Minnesota banned all inhalables like cannabis flower, vape tips, and things like that, and they only have 2 licenses. So what the problem with that is that anybody that wants to consume cannabis via vapor now has to find an alternative way to go and do that.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me on Peer to Peer. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem.
All right.
Thank you for having me.